to Fresh Geek Context. This is a podcast where we routinely discuss insightful views on a bi-weekly basis over the incredibly nerdy things we can't stop talking about. To take you on this dorky ride are your host,
Lucille.
and myself, Jace. What?
What? Was the joke that bad?
Too soon. Too soon.
All right. I'm Josh.
Thank you. Why don't you take a seat, sit back, relax. We're here to do all the heavy lifting. It's about to get nerdy. This is supplemental episode 5.5 of Fresh Geek Context. This is in addition to episode 5 where we failed miserably at talking about a spoiler-free review. Today we talk about wonderful things like...
Walking Dead. But was it really that wonderful?
No, actually it was quite horrifying. Finally, it's time. We could talk about this.
We can, and we don't have anything to limit us. Ha ha ha.
Yes.
So last week, last podcast, which was yesterday or the day before, if you're listening to this, we saw the Walking Dead episode 1 season premiere of season 7. It was the most, what would you call it? The most horrifying thing you've seen on
episode 1. Yeah. To me, are we talking about overall tone? Like, what did I think after binge watching for several months now?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that big reveal, which was, who Negan killed.
Yes.
So we can talk about that now.
Yes.
So yeah, what did you think about the horror that that Team Rick, as I will call them, suffered?
I thought it was. I was finally at the edge of my seat, and I've had this discussion with you, and I've had this discussion with many other people. This is the first time that I was able to watch something and be at the edge of my seat, and where those breaks that are taken between commercials, I'm like, don't show these commercials. These are, this is bad. I want to know what happens next.
Right. It's like, get these things out of the way. I just want to get back to knowing what's wrong with my people, pretty much.
Correct. I don't have the luxury of time as much as I did before when I was watching on Netflix. So. Sure. I think we can just jump right into it now, right? Abraham and Glenn.
Yeah. And was that a surprise to you that it was 2 people? Did you think it was only 1?
So I had said this in the previous episode 5. I said I made a prediction.
Sure.
I didn't want to say it, but now I can. I had made the prediction that it was going to be Abraham. Okay. And I said that prediction, and I was right, obviously, in my prediction. But I wasn't looking at it for what many people were saying. Like, people were trying to dissect it in various and sometimes silly ways. They were talking about, like, well, if you see in the last episode of season 6, you could see the point of view, and you're following the point of view. So some people were saying it was Daryl because it wasn't supposed to be in the show at all. He was a made-up character, and I get that. But I didn't get so into it like that. I was looking at that story, and I was looking at each one individually.
Sure.
And I said to myself, Abraham's story is over. It's done.
Yeah.
And that's why I made that prediction. I made it based on solely what I had seen so far in season 6. So.
Right, because at this point, Abraham, he pretty much was on borrowed time, because at this point in the graphic novel, I don't know if you've read the graphic novel or not.
Nope.
But yeah, at this point in the graphic novel, Abraham's already died. He's long gone at this point. The way he died in the comic was actually the way that Denise died. Do you remember who Denise was in season 6?
Denise was the doctor who got shot in the face with an arrow backwards.
With an arrow, and that's actually how Abraham went in the graphic novel. So Denise took Abraham's death technically.
Okay.
Which was kind of cool to see either way. It kind of sucked that she died because I really liked her character. I thought she was really cool.
Right. I agree.
So when that happened, I was like, damn it, but. As you do in The Walking Dead, someone dies, you gotta move on. You just gotta keep going.
I agree.
So Abraham was pretty much like on borrowed time at this point. So just like you, I kind of had a prediction, like, you know what, they may not go full graphic novel route and kill Glenn, or if they do decide to go that route, they're gonna off Glenn, and they're probably gonna off somebody else, and that somebody else is probably gonna be Abraham.
Right.
So when Abraham got the first swing or bonk on the head, whichever way you look at it, I was like, called it right then and there. I was horrified because I was like, I kind of wanted to be wrong, but I mean, who else would it have been if it wasn't Abraham? Like they weren't going to do that to Rick. Obviously, they weren't going to do it to Michonne.
And they didn't, and they said that, right? Negan had said this in the very last moments before season 6 finally came to a close. He had said, you know, if any of them says anything, cut the other eye out of the boy and feed
Yeah,
it to his father. So like
exactly.
those two were going to be fine.
Right.
And I think it would be a little strange for a show like that to kill off the main character that you saw from season 1. Um,
Right.
and in many ways, this is his journey. And I think that he does need to survive in order for him to mirror Negan. Um,
Sure.
but I can talk about some of the other things that I thought that Negan did was absolutely horrifying. Because we talked about this in episode 5, where, you said, you know, we're seeing his point of view, and Rick killed a lot of his men. So this was payback. And
Sure.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I get what you're saying, absolutely. But at the same time, there is this tiny little things. And again, I haven't read the book. And for those that are listening out there, when I hear of a show that is being adapted from a book, I typically watch the show first, or watch as much of the show first before I start looking into the book. And I know that's backwards for many people, but there is a specific reason why I do that. The reason why I do that is because whenever I watch a movie and then I am intrigued by the story, or intrigued by the character, or the overall project, and the uh, I'm trying to figure out the right way for me to say this. Um, the overall ensemble of the of
Sure.
the of the project, of the story.
It's a good word.
Thank you. When I go into the book, I usually get a much better version. I don't like when I hear that, Harry Potter is coming out with a movie, so you run, you jump out, you grab the books, you read all of them, 1 through 7, before the first movie comes out,
Sure.
and then you start watching the movie and you're like, well, this is terrible. I don't like that, because I feel like I will always get the worst version. The movies typically don't, or the TV shows typically don't fare up as well as the predecessors do.
Right.
So right now, I'm really enjoying the show. When I do have a chance to delve into the books, I'm sure I will get a much better, more visceral reaction. Uh, seeing how everything kind of comes down.
Right. And I mean, I've read the books, but don't get me wrong. I'm not like it's not like with me and, like, let's say the Dragon Ball manga. Like I've read that thing front to back from the very first issue all the way through 42 volumes.
Right.
I have not done that for Walking Dead. I've read them maybe once and then kind of moved on. And just like you, I'm kind of sticking with the TV show at this point. Not to say that the graphic novel is bad or anything, just so everyone's aware. I mean, the graphic novel is a great, great book. But I tend to focus more on the show itself. But when, nice little bits like when Negan smacks Glenn across the face and, you just see his eyeball popped out, and, he's like, Maggie, I'll find you. Like, that kind of stuff, when it's ripped straight from the book, it's satisfying to see. And it's also super sad because, you read the book and you're like, oh, this is gonna happen. I really don't want to see this happen on the show. And
Agreed.
then of course, it happens, and you're just like, damn it, I kind of wish I didn't know that little piece of information.
Of course.
And you kind of want it to just surprise you. But to each their
So,
own, I guess.
yeah, I agree with you 110% on all of that. You know, when I saw Abraham finally, when we finally learned, because I was getting annoyed, how how the show was kind of presenting it, because I was under the impression, up until maybe about 20 minutes into the show, I had started saying out loud with the group that I was with, I don't know if they're going to show it. I think they're going to prolong it for another episode. And that was starting to make me mad.
Right. We actually, so my group of people, we thought the same thing, but we didn't think that they were going to hold it till next episode. We were like, they're not going to show it till the end. Like it'll probably be like the final scene that we see.
That would have made me very mad.
Yeah, and then the show was like, all right, guys, we heard it. It felt like they were listening to us as it was giving on
Hmm.
somehow, because as we were saying that, they were like, all right, here it is, and then that whole scene plays out, and it's just brutal.
I didn't feel so I felt something when Abraham died because but again I didn't because I made that prediction with the pretense knowing that his story was over. I was like, okay, so he's done.
Sure,
So I'm like, oh, I
like you
accepted
accepted it.
it, and I was like, ah, man, that sucks. He was a great character, but his story wasn't going anywhere. There was nothing left unresolved.
Sure.
When the Doctor in season 6 died, there was unresolved stuff, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Like there was a romance that was starting to
Yeah,
come up with her,
with her and
and
Tara.
yes, and so when Abraham died, I didn't feel good, but I felt better knowing that at least they closed out the story. I don't really
Sure.
like cut off stories, and Walking Dead seems to do well with that.
Yeah.
My mouth dropped when Negan picked Glenn. That was the moment where my mouth dropped,
Yeah.
and I needed a moment. My leg was shaking. Like I had a again that visceral response to that much more than I did in any other show. There's usually a few moments where I lose my breath,
Sure.
where I pause the show and I may walk around for a little bit, but last week's episode was something else. I don't know if I was ready for that. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, no, I mean it was brutal, and then of course Negan's just there like taunting him. He's like, "You just took a hit, boy. You know your eyes popped out and everything." And I'm just like, "You son of a bitch! I cannot wait for this group to come after you now."
And that's the detail. And that's when you were telling me, in the last episode where, you understand where he's coming from.
Sure.
That may be the case, but it's the details, right?
Yeah.
I understand what Rick did. Rick, killed lots of people when he went into the church with all of the cannibals, and he
Yep.
completely slaughtered all of them. Again, if you take that out of context and you don't know Rick, absolutely. However, he killed a lot of cannibals, and so
Right.
there's this pattern, and there's this flow that Rick is taking where he's getting stronger and he's getting less fearful, and he won't stop at anything, and to protect the people that he cares about.
Right.
So I get all that, but not spending any time with Negan, and the fact that he is joking while he is killing,
Right.
that's something that I haven't seen Rick do.
And I mean, that's he could definitely evolve into that this season. We don't know. I mean, we saw the previews for for the season after that episode, and he's like, "Hey, Negan's in charge now. I'm not doing this anymore." But we might see that character evolution. You don't know.
We don't. We certainly don't. But I mean, if we look at the past seasons of all the villains that have taken up the screen, I mean, there was Shane, there was the Governor. I mean, we've seen some pretty evil people. We saw Terminus, where I mean,
Yeah.
those guys were messed up.
Yep. And when
Nin-
the wolves hit Alexandria.
Yeah, those characters were on a different scale in many ways, but Negan is on in another
Oh
universe.
yeah, no.
And the reason why I think he's in another universe is because he dismantled Rick. We saw a man take apart another man
Yes.
down to his very core.
He
And
emotionally destroyed him and psychologically destroyed him.
that's the word I'm looking for. Psychologically, he took him away from the group, and he got into his brain, and he took his time, and he waited and he waited, and he would say the right words at the right moment at the right time,
Right.
and then the the coup de grace, as they say. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly.
I'll
But
say that you're saying it correctly just to be on your side.
thank you. I appreciate it. But that moment at the very end when he takes Carl
Yes.
and he places him down with the marker, and I said, okay, where is this gonna
Sure.
go? Like, there's a lot of things that are gonna happen within the 20 minutes. There was a lot of story that they had to cover
Yeah.
in the first season, season 7, and the first episode of season 7. And so, when he starts to hyperventilate and he's staring at him, like that's the moment where Rick hit bottom. That was it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's going to be able to come back from that. I don't know anything about the story, but for someone to experience something like that, that leads to post traumatic stress disorder.
No, definitely.
That you will never behave correctly. Um, and that act on its own is going to lead to more violent tendencies. It has to, because I mean, when you're brought to the edge of that and you see two people that you know and you care about, slaughtered right in front of you, and then you get decommissioned piece by piece, that this is the worst villain I've seen on television. And I don't watch a lot of television. I'm catching up now because you tell me things, and we have the show here, so
Sure.
obviously we're going to be reviewing lots of things in the future. But I've seen some things. I've seen a lot of movies, and I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah. No, I mean it's there's really no words to describe it. Like if you haven't seen it, which I'm hoping if you're listening to this episode that you have, it's just you can't really describe it because it was just it was horrible. It was really one of the worst things I've seen on network TV. Um,
It was horrible, but the reason why I placed Negan in a different echelon, if you will,
yeah,
is because a lot of the things that happen on The Walking Dead is random. It kind of reminds me in some senses like I'm watching Mad Max. There's a lot
sure,
of
yeah,
things that just happen by accident and you're just dealing with it. This episode, this character, everything that this person is doing to Rick and Team Rick is on purpose.
right,
This is a very methodical man that is just getting started, as he so eloquently says himself. So I
definitely,
don't I don't know, like that episode kind of messed me up. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't like I had a lot of time to think about this. And obviously, we were talking about, how we were going to fit this into episode 5. This is why this whole thing warranted its own supplemental episode.
yeah,
We've had a lot of time to kind of talk to each other, and we for those who are listening out there, we talk about a lot of things, but we usually say we should probably save this as a surprise just to see like real-time reactions, so that this isn't all scripted. But I gotta tell you something, Josh. I felt like this episode for season 7 really messed me up. I don't know, like, and I know it's gonna get worse. I know it,
oh, it probably will,
because Negan's on top, and he has everybody under control. There is something that bothered me in that episode, and how Carl was subject to see his father fall so low.
yeah,
That is another psychological manipulative move that can only do harm. That is never good in any sense.
right, because
And
now,
so,
right,
like,
because now you have the son seeing his father kind of break, so he's kind of like, he probably didn't, Carl didn't really show it, but because he saw his father in this state, he's probably, thinking the same thing could happen to him or to anybody now at this point.
yeah, but Carl is never going to. Daryl, on the other hand, like, I know people who are saying that Daryl is the one that's responsible for the reason why Glenn is dead. I don't believe that mess at all. I don't. I really
I
don't.
mean, I can see the
Because
argument why, because he did say, hey, if someone gets out of line, I'm not going to tolerate this. he'll go and off somebody. And what did Daryl do after he offed Abraham? He went off. He did his little scuttle or whatever it is, and he's like, "Hey, I said I'm not going to tolerate this." Boom, and he knocked out Glenn.
I believe, and so we talked about this, right? Last learning time
Sure.
for episode 5. We talked about this. The very last line that you said was, "What would you do if you were in this situation?"
Yeah.
If I were Rick in that situation in the Winnebago, when I fetched, quote unquote, his axe,
Right.
as soon as I get in, he turned around, I would have lunged instantly, because that would have been the moment where he probably wasn't thinking that he was going to get attacked.
Sure.
But that's where I would be thinking. You know what I mean?
Right, but then, knowing Negan and knowing how he's gone, kind of manipulated everybody to this point so far, you don't know. He could have been like, "Hey, listen, every once in a while, I'm going to check in with you guys, make sure, that way I'm alive. If you don't hear me after so-and-so time, kill everyone else." You don't know. You don't know that he would have said that or did that.
Listen, as a matter of fact, I know he would have said that, and this is what we're talking about again. This whole methodical kind of planning that he does in season 6, the last episode.
Yeah.
Last Day on Earth. There is nothing that any of the characters could have done to have escaped that.
No, definitely not.
They were, and that's that that chess player move, like checkmate, checkmate, checkmate. Like you can't get out of this at all. And so that's why, and I watched it again actually before we started recording this again, because it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that feeling that I didn't have, that I felt at that time is gone now, because I already know what happens in episode 1 and episode 2 of this season. But it's, I can't fault Daryl for behaving that way.
Sure.
Was that something that he planned? No.
Probably not.
When Negan went up to Maggie and said, "I should put you out of your misery right now," Glenn had a response. His logical mind is going to say something along the lines of, "I'm just going to stay here because we need to remain calm." But there are going to be moments, Josh, where you can't think with your logical mind.
Of course.
Our very nature, our very human nature is going to be rooted in emotion.
Right.
And we act based on emotion. So I don't, Negan's got to go. Negan's got to go in the worst way.
Oh, definitely.
Negan's got to, and this, I'm not making a prediction because I have no idea what's going to happen now. But Negan's got to go by way of Lucille.
I mean, that would be pretty poetic, I guess.
It's got to happen. He's not going to just take a bullet, or he's not going to die by a walker.
Sure.
He's got to go.
He's got to go. He's got to go down hard, pretty much, and
he's got to go down hard. He's got to.
Nice and slow, nothing quick.
No, he's got to go down the way he takes out people. He's got somebody's got to be with the quips. It's got to be mentally breaking him down and knowing that there's nothing. That's the only way that you're going to be able to send him off.
Yeah, kind of
the only way.
Kind of taste of his own medicine type way.
Absolutely. But knowing the show, I know that I'm probably going to be wrong, because something tells me that he's going to survive for another season, and he's going to be incorporated in the group where they need to work together. And that's what's going to make this show difficult.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, the governor stuck around for like 2 seasons. We kind of thought he was good for a little bit there, but then he turned back.
No, I never thought the governor was good. I always thought that there was something very off about the governor.
Well, he acted the good part, but we all know that the governor was never truly good.
Nope.
But I mean, if they are going to take out Negan, though, the group has to come together, because right now Negan just took Daryl. And we have no idea, the group has no idea where, Morgan and Carol are at this point, too.
Right.
So the only way they can take down Negan is together, because they do work their best when they're all there, when they make a plan. Or, they don't even have to make a plan. Literally just them being together is the plan.
Plans don't mean jack in that show, though.
Exactly.
How many times that, we're going to find someplace safe. Season 2, we're going to find someplace safe. We went to the farm. Guess what? That all went down to hell.
No, the farm.
And then they went to the prison. And that scene, that was the moment where I felt like, yes, the show can, become positive. But after the prison show kind of happened, that that was another turning point in that show for me, where I realized like what I want to happen is never going to happen in that show.
Sure.
So I almost prepped for the end of season 6, because I knew like this show can only get worse. And as a matter of fact, I remember talking with somebody I used to work with, and he had said that what The Walking Dead has done for television and storytelling in general changes the game in so many different ways. You can have The Walking Dead appear in every country, in every state, and pretty much in multiple time frames as well.
Sure.
I know they do that a little bit with Fear of the Walking Dead, but I can't really get into that show for some bizarre reason. It's not The Walking Dead at all.
No, it's not. I mean, I watched the first season. I thought it was okay. I did not watch any of the second season.
I mean, I want to. I want to. I didn't complete the first season, but I am told by reliable sources that season 2 mirrors The Walking Dead season 2. Like almost verbatim. And that's cheap storytelling. I can't appreciate that at all.
Sure.
I like, as much as I was emotionally and mentally distraught by Glenn's departure in the show, I knew it was necessary in order for them to progress the story forward.
Right.
So I'm all about the show. Like I am on board. I have never been more on board with any show. I know we talked about Arrow. I'm trying still, man. It's not working out. This show is a completely different story. Like I am totally on board.
Good. Well, at least you're watching this show.
Yes, I certainly am. But let's make a small segue.
Sure.
A small segue to episode 2.
Yeah.
Because I watched episode 2 last night. You watched episode 2 last night.
We did.
And I want to know what your thoughts are, because I have my point of view, but I want to hear your take.
Sure. I mean, so with episode 2 now, it as much as I wanted to see the aftermath of the group, which we kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of at the end of the first episode, but I kind of want to see how they're doing. I want to see what's happening now at this point. But it was nice to kind of have a ray of sunshine episode, of rain of hope episode, if you will, with meeting King Ezekiel, and when he does his stuff in his own way, as Morgan says, and he has a tiger, so there's that. So it was nice to have that, that for that balance, I guess. You have your dark times, but then there's also things that come into light. So I do like that they, even though, like I said, as much as I wanted to see the group, see how they're doing, and feel for them, it was nice seeing Morgan and Carol, being in the kingdom and seeing some type of hope. Well, Morgan will see the hope, Carol not so much, but she might come around to it. We'll see. But I do like that balance. You can't always be like brutal, and then it's like, oh, here's a little bit of sunshine, brutal. So I thought it was a nice balance episode, if you will.
Of course. I am so glad you said that, because I remember talking with Walking Dead fans before, we started watching it live.
Sure.
And I was a little apprehensive, honestly, because, speaking again, just going back to what I was saying before on how messed up the last episode was, and how, surreal that whole episode unfolded, and how we saw the dismantling of, the main character, and consequently all of the other characters along with him.
Yeah.
I kept saying, like, where do we go from here? And so episode 2 starts, and now I spent maybe the first 20 minutes laughing. And I stopped myself after maybe the second commercial break, and I said, "Am I watching The Walking Dead?
Right?
I don't know. Like, I didn't know how to respond to that." And so I left social media alone. I didn't respond, or I didn't say anything. And I slowly came to realize that you almost have to lead in with a certain level of absurdity
Sure.
and humor to counteract everything that you saw in the previous episode.
It's like they didn't happen in the same plane, in the same universe even.
Yes. So, there's an interesting thing with that. And the reason why that's interesting is because you'll notice this with a lot of shows like Lost, and specifically this one. They, in the last episode, they had Lucille hit everybody on the head.
Right. Because they filmed different endings.
Different endings, right? And, the same thing happened with Maggie. There was that leak version that also came out last week. And you saw her die the way that Abraham, quote unquote, was supposed to die.
Right.
And it did this also with Lost. I really don't want to tell you because I want you to watch it, but I'll skip that.
This is a spoiler review, just saying.
I know, but this is not a spoiler review for Lost. This is a spoiler review for The Walking Dead.
Fair enough.
What I want to say is, when you're talking about alternate realities, this is something that can potentially happen where, who knows, Glenn may not have died if, a significant spoiler might have leaked.
So you're saying, like, let's say, we found out, oh, Glenn was the one that died. They would have changed it to Maggie instead, right, or something.
Absolutely. The ratings would have plummeted significantly, and that's what changes the type of show that it is, because there's so many eyes on it, because there's so many people who want to know what happens next. Right. That show is not like any other show. It's not like I'm trying to think of another show. It's not like we're watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or what I like to call the Phil Coulson show. Whatever happens to if Ghost Rider gets sucked out into space, how do you get into space? I don't know, but that show is not Luke Cage. Luke Cage is not Arrow. It's not Flash. It's The Walking Dead has the eyes of the world looking at it, so that show has to be filmed fundamentally differently. So I'm sure like the way that they script the show is also going to be fundamentally different from everybody else. So I feel like when they were filming episode 1, like they probably had a script down for what episode 2 was going to look like. But, they realized right after episode 1 aired, like, we need to make this a little bit lighter.
Sure.
Just a little bit. Just because, we don't want that show to be that depressing. So 2 was a good episode, but I don't think it was phenomenal because I felt like I had to that sole purpose of episode 2 was to counteract.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say episode 2 is like one of the top ranking Walking Dead episodes. It's definitely not. But it had like, really cool moments, and it introduced us to a cool character who I'm pretty sure is going to stick around and eventually help us with the Negan problem. Because he, too, as we saw, is having issues with the survivors, Negan's group.
You're talking about Ezekiel.
I am talking about Mr. Ezekiel, yeah.
Can I say something about Ezekiel, though?
Yeah, sure.
So Ezekiel had me for the beginning of his introduction, where, you have his accent, his tiger, Shiva, his persona, his aura.
His Jerry, too.
Wait, remind me who Jerry is again?
Jerry was his like servant boy or something.
Oh, yes, Jerry.
Jerry, he stays within hollering distance.
Yes.
He was amazing.
He reminds me of you in many ways.
Thank you.
No, it's good. It's absolutely good.
Does that mean you keep me in hollering distance?
Well, I mean, I can call you though.
Okay, I mean, yeah. So that is hollering distance if you think about it.
That is hollering distance. I'm certainly not Ezekiel, but as soon as Carol saw through the BS, I like I felt like, oh, okay, this is just a regular dude that happened to become like the king and leader of this compound. And I don't know, like it almost like it lost credibility, like his character almost lost credibility. He's going to have to prove himself to me because there's no way that that character that I saw currently is taking down anybody. Certainly not Negan.
I mean, you saw him. He said himself, you know, he was he was a normal guy. He was a zookeeper, but he was also, you know, like he said, he was an actor in his day. So I'm sure in his quote unquote acting, he had to do like, you know, fight stunts and things like that. And I'm sure that's where he learned how to fight. And like you see a little bit of that when he's up against the Walker when they're doing the whole feeding the pigs thing. Like, you know, he puts the foot on the Walker, stabs him in the head. You know, you don't really see much,
So,
obviously, other than that. But I feel like if it comes down to it, I feel like he could probably kick some butt. I would not be surprised.
how many years has it been since season 1 and to season 7 where we are now?
I think all of this. What?
Has it been 7 years?
No, it has not
Or
been. It
does
has
that
not been 7 years.
Okay.
I want to say it's only been like maybe like 4, 5.
Right. So let's say, for example, you are absolutely correct in your statement.
Sure.
Then that means that Ezekiel has 4 years, 4 to 5 years experience living and surviving after this pandemic. So I know he knows how to survive, but that's not my concern. My concern for Ezekiel is this a person that can stand up to defeat Negan, or at least at the very least assist? Because I remember like I was at the edge of my seat. I was like, man, I don't know who this dude is, but I'm liking him. Like he has a tiger, he's King Ezekiel. And so once I found out
Sure.
that he was a zookeeper and Shiva was from the zoo, I was like, man, now Shiva is now somebody I have to worry about because like is Shiva going to be capable of taking down dudes who step up and try to start some things?
Yeah.
Like I now care about the tiger. Like that's how good the show is. But like I don't know, like the I was a little annoyed with the last part of episode 2
What
because
the interaction between Carol and Ezekiel?
I mean, I know that something is obviously forming, like a good, strong friendship, a partnership between the both of them, where they can, obviously Carol doesn't operate there. That's why she started laughing, and I started laughing too. I was like, "This is absurd. This is, it is absurd."
She said herself, she's like, I have no idea what's going on in the most wonderful way. And it's like, and we're just sitting there with her, like, yeah, I agree. You're in front of a dude with a tiger.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with it.
Like it's pretty hilarious in a world of a zombie apocalypse. The most thing that you're just like, what the hell is a dude with a tiger?
I'm with it though. I'm like when he sold it to me, he sold it to me wonderfully.
Yeah,
And so when he started seeing through Carol, it had to mirror itself, right? So, the fact that he was able to reveal, like, I appreciate that transparency, but at the same time, I'm like, maybe they were just lucky. Who knows? Because Negan is a bad dude. Like, Negan is not somebody who BS's.
no, for sure.
And that's what I now worry for Ezekiel. I worry for everybody in that camp now.
Yeah, but one of the things that we did see though, which I mean, I guess it's Ezekiel's plan little by little, is we did going back to the whole pig thing. We did see that they were feeding the pigs walkers, and then those same pigs they were giving to the survivors,
I didn't like that at first because I thought that he was feeding them to the
to his
kingdom.
community.
Right.
Yeah,
And when I found out that he was feeding them to the survivors, I felt better, but
sure.
I now worry, and I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to worry because, I'm just a lowly viewer, if you will.
Uh huh.
But, you know, Rick, Team Rick is with the survivors.
Yeah. Well,
Vi-
they're with them in this. Well, Darrow's with the survivors technically, Everybody else goes back to Alexandria.
Right. But I mean, he's gonna
So
show up
so
next week.
the only person who's really going to get hurt from Team Rick is going to be Daryl, if anything.
I'm pretty sure they're not gonna feed him pork. Those are for the
Yep.
good guys.
Right, exactly. Those are for the important people, not for you, Mr. Daryl.
Yeah, he'll get whatever scraps and slop that they feed them. But I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm hoping. I don't know what I'm hoping. I don't like. This is one of those. This is a very unique show to me, and it's unique only because I don't have any expectations. I can't really say that I'm hoping for a character to live because the whole world in the show of The Walking Dead is full of random. It's full of
Sure.
coincidences, and also filled with random acts of violence, and survival and love doesn't even hold up in this reality. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of just an observer, and I hope for the best, but I don't really know what's going to happen
I
now.
mean, I don't know. I mean, this season can go any which way from here. I mean, we saw in the preview for the next episode, we're going to be focusing on Daryl now,
Correct.
and a little bit of Rick's group, I think, as well. I think we saw in the preview.
Yeah, he completely breaks down again
Um,
and says, I'm not the leader anymore. And he
exactly.
believed that. He believed that.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see what they're gonna do next. Like I said, I've read the graphic novel a little bit, but seeing as they deviate rather from that a lot, I'm just very
Hmm.
excited to see what we got going on with Rick
Yeah,
and Co.
oh yeah, Rick and Co. I guess. I mean, Team Rick, hashtag Team Rick. Is that a thing? Is that a thing on Twitter?
We can make it a thing.
We can make it a thing. Okay, hashtag Team Rick.
Hashtag
Good
Team
luck.
Rick. Hashtag Team Jerry.
Team. Does Jerry have a team?
Jerry's on his own team. It's him and the Tiger, really.
Him and Shiva.
Him and Shiva. Yeah.
But Shiva, I'm telling you, that tiger is not that the fate of that tiger is not going to end well.
No, don't say that. I like the Tiger.
But I love the tiger. That's precisely the reason why I'm saying
No, that
that.
Tiger's gonna bite somebody's head off. I know it.
He's gonna bite one head off, and then the demise of that tiger is going to be evident.
Oh,
I don't want it to be that way, but this is The Walking Dead. No happy
there's
endings.
a happy ending for Shiva.
That mm-mm, mm-mm.
Fine, whatever. Jerk.
I'm just listen. I'm not a jerk. I'm not the person that's making the show. I don't even know if I would have. I would like to think that if I were in charge of a show like this, I would have the courage and the bravery to push these characters in such a way, because that's what makes it an enticing show. This is the reason why I can't stop talking about the show in this review. Like, I don't even know what the breaking point is. Like, I know the tone is certainly getting darker than it ever did,
Which is
um,
saying something for this show.
which is saying something for the show. But and then there's also the direction. Like, where do we go from here? I mentioned it before, but I don't know where this is going. I mean, who knows? It could deviate entirely from the book again,
Exactly. We just don't know. We just
which
don't
wouldn't
know.
bother me. Which
We don't
we
know.
just don't know. We just don't know.
But I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got for these two episodes, don't you think?
I think so. I don't really know. I don't know. When do you think we could revisit this again? Like at the mid-season finale, or should we just wait all the way to the end? What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't mind doing a mid-season finale.
Yeah, because I still have to stomach whatever happened to me in episode one. Because episode one and two were just mirror opposites, and you know, I was
It's gonna be with us all the way through.
it is, and I was really excited to talk about this in this episode, but realizing the scheduling, I said we have to do episode two, and
Yeah.
now I'm looking at episode one and two, and I'm like, well, these are completely different. Like it almost feels like two different shows.
Yeah, definitely.
So, because now I'm wondering what's happening to Carol, because she's seeing people, you know, die but alive. What is that?
I think that was just her dream sequence thing. I don't know what to call that.
Or maybe she's sick, or she's suffering mental trauma. Don't look at the
I mean,
flowers, Lizzie. Don't look at the flowers.
oh no, no! Don't remind me of the flowers. Oh, now I'm gonna cry.
Telling you, Carol's a badass. She's a character that has definitely worked her way up on the scale of respect.
No, Carol has had one of the best arcs from this entire show.
Mm-hmm.
Like her arc going from, getting beaten by her husband all the way to what she is today. Whew,
Mm-hmm.
that is an amazing, amazing character arc.
I agree with you there.
So good. So good.
I think that's it.
They think we're good, yeah.
That's all we have for this episode. Thank you so much for hearing us ramble. I'll tell you what, if you like what we had to say, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Jace Rockland. And Josh?
You can find me at JCA90. You can also find us at FGC Podcast or email us at freshgeekcontext@gmail.com.
You can also visit our website at freshgeekcontext.com for past episodes. And lastly, if you could, please hit that subscribe button for us on iTunes. It goes a long way for us to know that you're listening. You can also go to the podcast section or the podcast app on your iPhone or iPad and share with your friends so they can be Fresh Geeks too. Everyone, survive.
Maggie, I'll find you.